always curious, especially a guy like you that just entered the indie scene. You're having these great matches all over all over the world, basically. And, you had a great 10-year run with the WWE. But do you have maybe a favorite match or two that just stick out and, you really look back fondly on it as one of your favorites?
Oh, that's a great question. A lot of my favorite matches no one ever saw because they were on live events or on, international tours, where you're able to have a lot more creative freedom in what you do in the ring. But as far as the matches that people would know, gosh, some of my favorites. I think I definitely was really thrilled at the prospect of being able to wrestle against Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam with Ted DiBiase and Triple H and Shawn Michaels. That was a really special and feel good thing because Shawn I thought was forcibly retired. I didn't think he'd ever return, and then he's my hero in wrestling. To be able to smack him in the face and be able to stand across from him and kind of see if you can keep up with the Heartbreak Kid that was a really great moment. Also, I'm just thinking off the top of my head because I really don't have a top number one. I don't even have a top five, I don't think. But another really fun thing was everything I ever did with Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio and I had a Falls Count Anywhere match one night that just I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. I think I gave him a disaster kick off of a bar, and we just did some crazy, fun, wild stuff. The Rey Mysterio for sure. Gosh, there's so many. Anytime I got to mix it up with Daniel Bryan, especially when the brand split was still in place and we were on SmackDown. Randy Orton and we probably had over 1,000 matches on live events that no one's ever seen. That I learned probably the most in my career from anybody. I learned from Randy Orton. Christian and I had a really good natural chemistry between one another, especially because there wasn't much as far as story is concerned. They kind of came across as cold matches. And then I'm going to stop because I'm going to sit here and just yammer all day. Another one I really liked is Big Show and I's tables match in Chicago. Only because him falling through the table, just accidentally stepping through the table because he's a legit giant. His face to this day is just when his foot goes through accidentally because he slips off the apron. His face is just the best thing I've ever seen. It just makes me laugh as far as giant problems in general, and that one was really fun. And then he just kicked my ass afterwards, and I was in terrible shape after taking going through two different tables. But that one was a lot of fun. And now I'm going to shut up because I'm just literally reminiscing on old matches.
Hey, we absolutely, we love it. It's just great. But, for me, I'm just very curious. The list, it's so intriguing, and it's so cool when it came out, and it was on Twitter and everything else. But for the list, when that list is completely checked off, and, you're basically, you somehow completed that amazing list, you think that you're going to put maybe a list part 2 out there? Or, what do you think? You're going to add some more names to that awesome list?
Well, I think, the original is the original. And I don't know if if it will have the same sting that first one did, but I think there were some names that should have been on the list that I'm just kind of in my mind. I almost consider them like amendments to the list. One of them being a very obvious, and the reason he's not on the list is because I got bad information from one of my colleagues at WWE who told me he was WWE bound, but Kenny Omega is a very obvious one that should have been on that list. So that one is one of those list amendments for sure, and I feel like there's more of those, especially with as you're aware, the British are coming in wrestling. Like they're everywhere and they're exceptional. Marty, Will, Zach. Zach probably should have been on the list too. So I considered him kind of an amendment. But there's too much. The WWE is clearly not the only game in town anymore. Considering they're recruiting from all of these places. Yeah, so there's so many. I definitely could. If I did, I'll take a picture of it and send it to you. Yeah, no, I definitely could.
It's so awesome. The list has been so cool to see those names get checked off. And before we wrap it up here, Cody, and we look back at both the legacy of the Rhodes name in professional wrestling as well as what you're going to be doing in 5 years. We like to look at this question from two perspectives, depending on who we're talking to, but I think you're the perfect guy for both ends of it, and that is, in 5 years, what does Cody Rhodes see himself doing either in wrestling? Is he going to be acting? Or will he be continuing to grow the Rhodes legacy and what that means to professional wrestling?
I think 5 years from now, quite the time period. I think I'll be doing exactly what I'm doing right now, because I'm very happy doing it. I think I'll be hopefully wrestling with Ring of Honor, and hopefully wrestling with some of the various independent promotions, hopefully wrestling everywhere, and also on top of that, having the opportunity. I really want to look into acting from a television standpoint. I don't know, film intimidates me a little bit, so something about some of these TV roles, and it would be really fun to give my undivided attention to a recurring television role, and we're actively seeking that out. And I've spent a lot of time in LA. Actually, I'm moving out there in a few weeks, so that's definitely part of my future. Wrestling has been part of my past, present, it's guaranteed to be part of my future, but I think acting will get a big spotlight in the next 5 years, or I sure hope it does.
That's so awesome, and we definitely look forward to that. And we also look forward to this coming weekend as you invade New Jersey. You get in on the fun over at WrestlePro. Obviously, you said how much that's going to mean to you. But what else does Cody Rhodes have going on, and where can the fans and the listeners of the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling find anything and everything in the world of Cody Rhodes?
Best absolute place to the answer to that question, because as you've seen in this conversation alone, I can yammer on forever and ever about various dates and all the great wrestlers who I like, who I want to wrestle, but everything is on my Twitter and my Facebook. The Facebook's new. It's got the blue check, so make sure you see the blue check. But at Cody Rhodes on Twitter is where every date for that week alone is pinned up. This week it's Hero, Brian Fury, Pat Buck. The following night it's me and Johnny versus Hero and Drew Galloway. The following weekend, I believe Trevor Lee might be, or following weekend is Tommaso in one of his last independent matches. So it's all there on my Twitter. That's where I keep it organized, because my mind is the least organized thing ever lately. So that it's all on at Cody Rhodes, every event, every day. I'm really good about pushing those all forward.
Awesome. And Cody, obviously this has been so much fun, and we would love to have you back in the future at some point, maybe talk a little bit more about the list. But personally would like to get your take on the last thing that we asked your dad, and that was we would love to get your take now on his epic turn on WCW and when he joined the New World Order. And, of course, that was our lasting legacy with the American Dream.
That was the last thing you asked him, huh? That
was the last thing. If you can believe it, that was actually the last thing we asked him. And, man, did we get a little bit of a kick out of that looking back.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think, I don't know what my dad told you, but one night he came out on SmackDown and he shook Rey Mysterio's hand, but he held onto his hand and he let me sucker punch Rey in the back. And somebody said to him prior, they said, well, Dusty, we don't want the people to boo you. And he looked at them like his eyes were, like he was from Krypton and he could burn their head off with his eyes. And I think he just said nobody is going to boo the American Dream. And if they boo the American Dream tonight, when I wake up tomorrow, they're not going to boo the American Dream. It's just, I've been a lifelong connection with these people. They're not this I want to say this skirmish is maybe what he said, isn't going to cause that to be any different. So when you look at the NWO thing with Larry Zbyszko and all that, he just made it cool. It wasn't, like that was during that period where who'd you want to see, WCW or the NWO? Scott would always ask folks. That was a period where you really just wanted to see the NWO. And Scott Hall, he said it best: cool doesn't expire. It doesn't. And as my dad got older and became kind of an old man wrestler, he was still really, really cool. So I remember as a youngster being really pissed. But that's because my dad did. He brought me up old school, so he didn't really open up about the industry to me. I had to figure the industry out for myself. So I was, see my dad as a, quote, bad guy, unquote, for that. That was a bit of a jarring experience. And the only amateur wrestling match he ever missed of mine was to do that NWO thing. And just that one. He never missed a game or a match or anything else. But I was really pissed at him at the time. I think he knew I was pissed at him.
Yeah, I definitely asked it very tongue-in-cheek. And he said, I said it was an epic turn. He said, if you think that was epic, and then he went on talking about Larry Zbyszko. Actually, the last thing he said on the show was making fun of Larry Zbyszko's Hall of Fame speech. So that was really the lasting impact that the Dream had on the two-man power trip. But again, like I said, it was this has been a ton of fun, and we really wish you nothing but the best. You got two huge supporters here on the two-man power trip, and we would love to have you back in the future.
Yeah, thank you, guys.